Hello, welcome to talkSPORT Golf. I'm Sean O'Brien and I'm here with Ryder Cup and Sky Sports analyst Andrew Coltart. Andrew, how are you doing?
Not bad, Sean. Yeah, pretty good. Looking forward to next week.
Absolutely. So let's start there. How much are you kind of looking forward to doing this one as an observer as opposed to a player?
No, massively. Because I mean, it just the last 2 years has gone by pretty quick. But because of the excitement of 2 years ago, and maybe because of how well the European boys seem to have played, certainly looking forward to this one with a fair degree of gusto.
Yeah, have you been to Beth Paige Black before?
No.
So this will be your first time. I'm not sure if you've managed to play it on the simulators here at Pitch Soho.
No.
What are you expecting from the test? Obviously, we've heard about how the Americans are going to set it up the way they want.
Yeah.
How are you expecting the course to play?
It's obviously a long golf course, so it's driving is going to be fairly crucial. I think they've dropped the rough down a little bit in order to exploit that avenue. So it will be playing long, but it will be playing fair. And I would rather it be set up like that, really, to be perfectly honest, than be set up with thick rough roundabout and everybody having to wedge out sideways. So I think actually it'll be set up quite fair.
Of course, you played in 1999. We'll come on to that. But how much has the Ryder Cup changed since 1999? Of course, there's always so much talk about how intricate the Europeans are. Your friend Paul McGinley started a lot of that process. What's it like now compared to 1999? Yeah,
it's growing exponentially. I think 99, maybe when they had the war on the shore over there at Keo Island, but things really started to move in a much larger direction round about after 99. I don't know whether it was the way that match turned out, when the European side looked like they potentially could win in America, and then the Americans turned it over, and it really it really piqued their interest, but the spectacle itself has grown massively since then, and it's become much more passionate, much more tribal. It encompasses all sports, that are out there. It's not just golf fans now that are engaged with the Ryder Cups. It's sports fans on a whole, right across the world. It's not just Europe and America. Right across the world, there's a massive interest.
And of course, Brookline feels kind of extra relevant going into this one in New York because a lot of people are expecting a hostile crowd. What are your memories of Brookline from that side of things?
Yeah, it's interesting because I mean that's obviously the Boston side, which is still fairly close. Look, I keep saying I was a player, so I was inside the ropes, but that week was the week where the Americans first started to talk about being paid for it, which was always a bit of a surprise to us because we just always wanted to represent our country. We never thought about it. It's a badge to wear with pride. We never thought that you had to be paid to wear that badge. So we tried to exploit that, for the first 3 days that we were there trying to engage with the American crowd. We knew the American crowd would be relatively hostile, but so we tried to soften them up by giving as much time as we possibly could to them for the 3 days before the matches kicked off. But as the course of the matches changed, certainly fairly early on Sunday morning, you really could feel that swell of support growing in the American side as the cheers rang up throughout the afternoon out on that golf course, and the American players became inspired off the back of it. That was huge. From people who had their partners there, my wife had just given birth the week before, so I didn't have my mother and father were there, but I wasn't in communication with them. So my wife wasn't there, so I wasn't talking to partners or anything like that. But some of the players who'd had their partners there, they were more victim to what was going on outside the ropes, what was being said outside the ropes. And arguably it's a bit like what is the modern day Twitter. People outside the ropes are free to say exactly what they want, when they want, and who they say it to. It's almost impossible to police, and those kind of things were being said, and partners, family members, and stuff like that, weren't in a position to be able to defend themselves or deal with it at the time. They didn't have the skills. They don't have the skills to deal with that because that's not in their environment, and that was tough. And when that then came home at night, and they would explain that to their partners and their husbands. That that would potentially affect how those lads would play.
Yeah, and you mentioned the money debate there. That's come a bit full circle now, hasn't it? I know you were probably opposed to it at the time. Have your feelings changed at all? You still feel exactly as you did in 1999?
Yeah, there's no reason to be paid. Arguably you get paid in any case in the contracts that you've signed. If you make a Ryder Cup side, there's bonuses and stuff like that that are attached to it. What it goes down, on your CV. There's people want. So you do make money off of it indirectly. So you don't need to be paid to put your colours on. You should go out there, you should do it, and you should do it with pride.
Yeah, and of course there is a long-standing narrative that the Europeans just care more about all that kind of stuff. Do you think this just emphasises that, and do you think Europe can use it to their advantage?
100%. It's a mistake, really, because those American fans out there who are hard-working, blue-collar people, they're going out there, they're working their socks off, trying to put food on their table, trying to put a roof over their head, trying to look after a family, trying to put the kids through college or whatever it is, and they're watching multimillionaires asked to be paid to represent the United States of America. That they're going to have a hard time trying to understand that.
Because, of course, New York fans can be brutal and hostile, but they can turn on their own as well. So I wonder if there will be the kind of fans that you mentioned. It would create quite a difficult environment for the Americans they brought onto themselves.
100%. I think that's a great point. And I go back, and this was my first impression when Keegan Bradley introduced his side. I don't know whether you can remember, but they were all standing there in the rooms back home on whatever it is, FaceTime, whatever platform they were on. And they all looked like they were being led to the lions. And I just wondered whether it was, whereas the clever thing with the Europeans was they were always then shown with a big smile on their face. The initial thing that I picked up, rightly or wrongly, was that there was a varying degree of trepidation about being picked to play in the Ryder Cup, because they potentially know what they might have to encounter. And if they don't get off to a fast start, knowing what that crowd can be like in those neck of the woods, it might start to feel like an away game for them. And they want to avoid that at all costs.
100%. And just going back to Brookline in 99, you must have been asked 100 times, but the draw comes out for Sunday singles. You haven't played a match to this point, and you get Tiger Woods. And it's not just any Tiger Woods. It's probably Tiger Woods playing the best golf that's ever been seen. How do you react to that? Is that a win-win situation because you're expected to lose, or is it scary? Yeah, no.
So I remember I was watching the Golf Channel that night when the draw had come out, and they were all going through the matches, trying to figure out how America was going to turn over this deficit. And a guy called Matt Lai, and it's interesting how I would never forget that, but Matt Lai said, this is 9-8. This game's going to get 9-8. And I thought, that's a little bit disrespectful, given the fact that you're one of the 12 best players in Europe. So, you'd think you can maybe get the golf ball around. But, of course, he was also referencing how great Tiger was playing at that time. So, obviously, those weren't the words that you wanted to hear straight off as you try to calm yourself down with the potential to sleep for about 5 minutes the night before. But I remember walking out to them, just going into the team room, and Sam Torrance was there. And Sam, arguably one of the best captains we've ever had, and he just has a habit of saying the right things at the right time. And Sam just said, that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. He said, that's great. Tiger, he said, you can take him. You can take him. I'm like, aye, right. And, look, over 4 days, no, but over 1 day, if you had a bad day and I had a good day, you just didn't know. And that was match play. Anyway, I went to bed that night, at least thinking of Sam's words that, I can take him. And, it didn't work out like that, obviously, but it was still, one of the best moments of my life.
And a few kind of like stories to put straight from that day. His caddy, Steve Williams, came out and said that Tiger came up to you and said, because you hadn't played, by the way, this one dog legs to the right. Now, I've seen you've denied that story. Were there any Tiger interactions during that day?
Do you know what? I can't remember it, but then again, I was breathing probably out my ears as well at that particular stage. I was trying to concentrate and hitting the fairway down the first. It wouldn't have surprised me because Tiger, and look, that's jovial.
Yeah,
but that is the Tiger that a lot of people don't get to see. That was what Tiger was like. I'd played with him a few times. He was just trying to have a little bit of banter with me on the first tee. I honestly didn't hear it, but it's the kind of thing you would probably have said with a fun bit of jest. Absolutely, there was nothing worse than that at all. It was just, hey Andrew, how's it going? By the way, this is a dog leg right to left par 4. I know you haven't seen it yet. I was just trying to hit the ball straight off the tee.
And then, of course, there's the infamous incident where your ball's in the first cut and you're made to go and look for it for what feels like an eternity and sent back to the first tee. That must have been kind of just the worst thing to experience.
Yeah, well, it was disappointing. There really wasn't any need for it. And just trying to put it into context, there was no crowd down that hole. It was just the way the hole was designed. They were all over there on the right hand side, and you drive over a dip. Now I knew, because of how I'd hit that tee shot, that it couldn't be where marshals were directing us, but nonetheless marshals were directing us 40 yards away from where the ball was, and we were all scrambling around trying to find it. I was 2 down at the time. I just lost 7 and 8. I was 2 down at the time and lost the ball. Went back to tee, played another one, lost that hole, and that was 7, 8, 9 with the 3 holes he took off me, and he ended up beating me 3 and 2. So a little bit disappointing that happens, but that happened. But look, again, it was always going to be a difficult one to beat.
And fast forward to 2025, it feels like we're due a close Ryder Cup. It looks like both teams are incredibly evenly matched. What are you expecting?
I'm expecting a much different result from 2021. We've got 12 guys that are all playing well at this time. Padraig Harrington didn't have that, unfortunately for Padraig. They were all struggling pretty much. This time's a completely different situation. We're all playing well. They had a really good season in America early on, winning an awful lot of events over there on the PGA Tour. They're still playing well at this particular time of the year. 1 or 2 players, for instance, like Matt Fitzpatrick, who's had 3 underwhelming Ryder Cups to this point, is playing a lot better. So I expect him to shine in this one, and I expect it to be very close.
Brilliant. Well, safe travels. Hope you enjoy it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it'd be great.
Brilliant.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.